It's really important to identify when you have a communication problem.
Right.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Deal Unmasked. We spoke on the reasons why you should wait before you get married.
Today we're going to be speaking on the reasons why you should get married.
It's going to be very good, guys. Last video, our keyword was wait.
On this video, our keyword is committed.
Communication.
On one accord.
Mindset momentum.
Maturity.
In love.
Time invested.
Trustworthy.
Endurance to the end.
Dedication to the cause.
One of the main key components in the word commitment is communication. In a relationship, communication is paramount to its success. It's very important that you're open and you're able to express the way you feel to your spouse, to your significant other, and you're able to effectively convey the way that you're feeling to them, and also that they're able to accept what you're saying and express the way they feel. And you learning to do this without getting your feelings involved and reacting instead of listening. So with us, we had challenges earlier on because we came from two different homes. I came from a home with both parents, and she came from a home with just her mom. So we were brought up differently. So when we came together, because of the dynamics of our backgrounds, I mean, it was like oil and water. We could not, our communication was off. We looked at each other differently. We responded to each other differently. We communicated differently.
I did not know how to communicate because I was not raised, pretty much that kind of family that I needed to learn. I mean, I don't want to say it, but we're trying to be as real as possible. And a lot of times we expect persons to give us what they don't have to give us. I've never learned how to communicate effectively. I had a great mom. However, I cannot tell you if she was taught to communicate, and because of that, it fell down to me. So a lot of times we want to get married into families, and you don't know what you're getting into, and he didn't know what he's getting into. He just saw a pretty girl, we all was in lust, and I think that of course love was there,
right.
But I think that it was more lust than love, because at the end of the day, we did not know what we were getting ourselves into. Right. Like he said, he came from a family with mom and dad, and their communication was pretty awesome. So he was not used to, being with someone who could not communicate.
So let me just correct that, because I came from a home with both parents, but my father communicated extremely well with us, the children. But the communication between my parents, it wasn't the way it should have been. So there was no real training ground for me to learn how I should communicate with my spouse.
So when you look at it, honey, both of us had some sort of situation whereas we needed help, and it's really important to identify when you have a communication problem, because
right.
I think the problem with what you're saying today, when we meet persons, they don't realize that they have a communication problem.
Right.
And to hear you say that's deep, because now even though you came from a mom and dad, great parents, it sounds like it still was a lacking of helping you to be a husband one day and helping you to learn communication. So this is why we say it's so important to know how to communicate, because there's different levels of communication, and we find ourselves expecting from your spouses, your partners, something that they don't have to offer. I did not have that to offer him. I was not trained to communicate.
Neither was I.
So it's important to Communicate.
A second point in the word commitment is one accord. A lot of people don't understand the power that they have when you're in a relationship. When you get in a relationship or a marriage, you align yourself with the universe. So once you can come into agreement as a unit, there's nothing that you can't accomplish or there's nothing that you can't achieve. So the importance of understanding that what we have together is stronger than just me trying to be an individual and overpowering her is super important, because if I'm me and I'm a good person and I'm a strong individual, imagine when I combine that with her, who's already a strong and a striving individual. When we come together, we create a force that's to be reckoned with. So understanding the power of agreement, I mean, for us, listen, that was paramount in our relationship.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, we had to reach to the point where we realized that we're not each other's enemies.
Right.
There was a time in our marriage when I made more money than he did. And I'm sure it was not easy for him. You know, but what kept us going is that I never threw it in his face. It never was an issue for me at all. It didn't make me feel more in charge of the home. I knew where I stand, I knew where he stand, and we worked it. It was also a time whereas I didn't work, and he took care of everything. I'm talking about years of just being a homemaker, and not one day he ever came home and threw that in my face, or made or belittled me. And this is why it's very important to be on one accord, because we can easily find ourselves trying to compete and feel that you have a upper hand on the other one,
right,
and making each other feel you belittle each other. So it's important to be able to be on one accord and know that we're not each other's enemies.
Right.
We're in this together. You know?
Right. So one of the key components to help with being on one accord is to make sure that you set goals and you write down goals for your relationship, because once you have your goals, then you can follow your goals, and your goals will be what set the tone and set the guidelines for your relationship. And once you follow those goals, regardless of who's making the most money, that has nothing to do with anything, because if we're in a relationship, what is hers is mine and what is mine is hers, not what is mine is hers and what is hers. It shouldn't be that way. It's a two-way street. In order for us to be successful in a relationship, we have to understand that I have to be in 150% and she has to be in 150%. So we have to be willing to give each other all that we have, so that we can ensure that we complete our goals and we stay on one accord.
So before we even move on to the third key, I think it's very important that I touch on this, because we was not always perfect. I think no one is perfect. No relationship is perfect.
No.
And we were not always on one accord. Like
No.
we told you guys. It was very difficult.
Right.
And I remember when I second guessed, the commitment, and also when I listened to the family and friends, it kind of put me in a place where I think I need to have some sort of security in the event something doesn't work out. And I think that's where we go wrong. When you don't put, I think it's a term that they use, putting all eggs in one basket, and you have a backup plan. Oh no. That's something that you really should be careful of looking at, because I did that. I was guilty of that. And
you sure were?
Yeah, I was guilty of that. And even though what I did was not of bad intention,
right, it wasn't.
The way how I did it was not good. And I'll share with you in a second. And I'm thinking the time when I just had a she stash.
She stash? You gotta explain what she stash is.
I'm sure you ladies out there know what a she stash is.
She stash?
just in case you don't know what a she stash, my she stash was basically is taking monies from our savings or monies for what I made extra and putting it in a little account that he knew nothing of. And again, that was my security, and also I was influenced to do that. So we gotta be very careful when we're not on one accord, because it can make or break you. And with that situation, even though that, you know, I mean, how much money is, can you remember?
It was about $10,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. You didn't start it off to that amount of money, but that's how long I was saving the money.
Right, but what compounded the problem at the time was, while she was saving the money and her motives and her intention was right, she was saving the money to help us. We were going through some difficult times, so in order for us to pay rent, I had to borrow money from friends and family members, and I hate asking people for anything. So it was very difficult for me to be borrowing money to try and make up the rent, because I wasn't making enough money and we were going through some difficult times. We just had a new baby born, so I was all out doing everything I can, and come to find out my wife had the means to help me, and not having to go to depend on somebody else other than the person that I've committed to be with, when she's not completely being transparent with me.
Yeah.
So it created a huge problem in our relationship, because we were not on one accord. We were operating independent of our relationship, and that creates a challenge. So it took some time for us to resolve that.
That was major. I
Yes.
mean, it was major, and like I said, it was only to help. You know, he's an investor, and you know, I trust his decisions. But I did not. It wasn't right for me to go ahead and do it behind his back.
Right.
And even though I was so excited to say, honey, look at this, and I took him on a trip, and I said, I have a surprise for you. Listen, guys, that was almost it.
Right.
For our marriage. And that was not a good feeling. And this is why we're telling you communication and being on one accord is so, so, so important.
Yes. Our next point in our commitment series is mindset momentum. What is mindset momentum? What we have to take into consideration is that, yes, we are all human beings, but then we are two different forms of human beings.
Yeah.
So you're female, I'm male, which is obvious. But with that comes two different mindsets, two different ways of viewpoints, two different ways of looking at the world, two different ways of looking at every single thing that we do. We can have simple conversations and say simple things and mean completely different things. So mindset momentum is understanding that as a man, I think one way. We usually direct, straight to the point. If we have something that we want to say, we say it, not thinking about the next person's feelings. As opposed to a woman, when she wants something done, she's gonna finesse. She's gonna ask around the question, around what she wants to be done. You think that garbage needs to be emptied? Oh, well, that thing been there for a little while. You can get around to do that soon. Me and you, a man will say, well, hey, you need to move back. Go empty the garbage. So we think differently. We function differently. I often, when we speak of mindset momentum,